and welcome back to the studio sessions. My name is Brooke, and we talk about filmmaking every week. And I want to give you guys another little update on my most recent project I'm working on right now. I was able to give you guys a little bit of a behind the scenes of what this part of the filmmaking process looks like that I'm currently in with my next project. And it's making progress, and I'm really excited to share some new things. So, yeah, that's what we're talking about today. Before we get into that, let's start with some studio notes. So, first one I wanted to talk about is a Warner Mount update. If you don't know the term Warner Mount, it is the current term people are using for the Warner Brothers and Paramount merger. Paramount plus Warner Brothers equals Warner Mount. And so there's an update, a very interesting update. 12 state attorney generals have now sued to block the merger. Now, I want to get this right. According to CBS News, attorney generals from Arizona, California, Colorado, Connecticut, Massachusetts, Minnesota, Nevada, New Jersey, New Mexico, New York, Oregon, and Washington have all sued, alleging that the merger is illegal under the Clayton Act of 1914, which prevents mergers that may undermine competition or create a monopoly, basically addressing the antitrust issues. And this was all actually kickstarted by the Attorney General from California, from what I am understanding, Attorney General Rob Bonta. And so there's a whole lot that they're trying to have happen. They're making their argument for basically antitrust concerns. And it'll be interesting to see where it goes. If any more states join the lawsuit or not, and how successful this is. I think Paramount is probably just hoping this all goes through really quickly because it's probably really stressed out right now with all of the pressure that's been around this idea for how long we've been talking about it. And so with that update, I wanted to share that with you guys. I also am almost done, not quite done, listening to one of the most recent episodes of The Town with Matt Bellany, where he actually interviews Attorney General Rob Bonta about the lawsuit and everything, and mentions some really interesting things. So that's what's going on in Warner Mount world. Not sure how I feel about the term Warner Mount, guys, if I'm honest. I'm just not sure how I feel about Warner Mount. So we'll see. But that's where we're at with that merger. The second studio notes is actually really funny considering what I've been watching lately. And that is the Reels or TikTok trend, if it started there. I honestly don't know if it started on TikTok or Instagram, but there is a trend right now where everybody's making their video to the documentary intro from Netflix they commonly use. It's very well known. And you basically put like me preparing for the Netflix documentary about whatever the topic. And yes, I did join in on this trend because it is very relevant for my life right now. I'm making a documentary and I thought it was really fun. It's also relevant in my life right now because I've been watching a lot of Netflix documentary, if I'm honest. I will share what I was watching that I actually enjoyed all of it towards the end of this episode. So stay tuned if you want those recommendations. But it was very apropos for me right now. And so I thought we could watch a few to get a feel for this. It's great.
Just clip it like that? Okay. Is she gonna watch this? The night seemed normal. Everything seemed fine. And then things took a turn. First, it started after I gave her the grilled cheese. She loved grilled cheese. It was like, and then she just kept saying snack, 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 snack. Baby, we don't have snacks at night. She wants spaghetti. She doesn't want spaghetti. My sweet girl. Not so sweet. And then I offered her pasta. Pasta's too hot, she says. If I could go back in time, I would have never offered her the banana. Can we turn the cameras off?
And my contribution. This is my contribution. So I thought it would be fun, since I am making one, to do my own. And so mine was me preparing for the Netflix documentary about, oh wait, I'm making my own. That is the trend. I honestly don't know if it started on TikTok or Reels. I'm not sure. But it was really fun. I have enjoyed watching them every time I see one pop up. And it was really fun to make mine. So I just thought that would be funny. And we all know Netflix is infamous for their documentaries. And just basically all of the documentaries they make, because they make a lot about everything. Everything. So I have loved it. Let me know if you have too, and if you have some really good ones. Link them in the comments. Studio note number 3. I actually want to talk about 2 different instances of AI being talked about in the industry recently, and they're just so polar opposite. It is a perfect example of what I was talking about with, like, you either love it or you hate it. Either it's going to be the next greatest invention, or it's evil and inhuman. And I just want to read these to you guys, and then you'll see what I mean. So we have the first instance is George Lucas. Yes, Star Wars George Lucas. According to Variety, and I will link all the articles I'm mentioning in this episode in the description so you can go read the full articles for yourself. But just the headline is George Lucas says AI makes filmmaking easier and there's nothing you can do about it. Criticizes Hollywood for giving fans too much power. And he also goes on to say, I don't like focus groups, Lucas said. The audience doesn't know what they want to see. If they don't like a character, that's interesting. And as a filmmaker, I want to find out why. But when the studios hear that, they take the wrong message. They let the audience actually make the movie. Of course, now they go crazy with that. Now it's all about what the fans think. That isn't how you make the movie. You make a movie by finding someone that knows how to make movies, that has a story to tell, and is passionate about it. A very interesting way to word things. I do think I get his point, but it is a very interesting way to word things, as is common with George Lucas. Okay, so that's that one. And then we have, in another Variety article, we have Christopher Nolan slams AI slop and disagrees with Matt Damon's defeatist opinion that The Odyssey is the last movie of its kind. Then, farther down in the article, he's quoted as saying, young people in particular, they coined this term AI slop there's a sort of disdain for things AI. I think the idea that it replaces human beings wholesale and human creativity, to me, it's a nonsense, which is kind of a part of this whole paragraph that he's talking about how harsh the criticism of AI has been, and like how stark against AI the younger generation has been, how quickly they can discern it and tell the difference, and basically saying how much the younger generation does not want anything AI. So I just thought that contrast was really, really interesting. Just the contrast in reaction. It kind of shows what I'm talking about. Both filmmakers make points that are similar to ones I've made, that there's a middle ground where it can be a tool, but also it doesn't replace the human. It doesn't replace the creativity. Now, that's a very specific part of things. So the idea of it being a tool does not necessarily mean you can't get faster with editing with it. Doesn't mean you can't still pare down the team for some of those extra tasks to be taken care of that way. It'll be interesting to see how it's adopted more. But I just thought those two reactions, they were in such stark contrast. It was so interesting to me. And seeing them back to back like that was like really jarring. So, yeah, that's what I wanted to talk about, and that is this week's studio notes. Production update, film update, however you want to put that. So, I feel like I'm getting really close to the end of development. I have been very, very excited to be able to talk to some of the experts I've gotten to talk to that I'm hoping to have in the film, working on some contacting of other people that I'm hoping to have in the film, and just some really cool things in place that are making progress. And I'm really excited for where it's going. I feel like I'm towards the end of development, probably I'd say 70 to 80%. And I'm starting to think about pre-production. What pre-production is going to look like. What do I need to make sure of? What logistically does that look like? And part of this is now me thinking about funding. How do I want to approach funding? When do I need to start approaching funding? At what point does it become necessary? I have a lot of personal equipment. I'm very bootstrap it as far as like, I'm just going to throw on a camera and record. And so internally, when I'm thinking about things like the logistics of actual production, filming, and equipment, I do have to balance myself out with that and go, well, no, but you do want to get the best quality that you can and take your time with that. And so one of the things that I've been thinking about is, how do I want to approach filming with the people that aren't local to me? There are going to be several people that are not local to me. In fact, several people that are going to be on the exact opposite side of the country. And that costs money to get me and equipment there. If I do it remotely, what does that look like? What is the best version of that possible that I could do? Logistically, how could I try to get the best equipment still for that? Whether it's sending equipment to them, but then how would they use it? Would they know how to use it? What would the best approach be? And part of that doesn't just impact the film itself, like how the camera looks and everything, how these interviews in particular is what I'm thinking of. That's the part I'm focused on right now. How are those going to be impacted and how are those going to look based off of these decisions that I make? And I don't want to shortcut that. I don't. I want that to be the best it can be. And so I personally have been struggling with that because part of me is like, well, if I had the funding, I would do that. I would I would try to go do, if I had the funding, I absolutely would. But I think I'm getting to the point where I need to tie in some of those things, and this is absolutely a part of development, tie in some of those things with like, what are my resources? What's going to be possible? And so it's making some of those decisions a little difficult. And maybe I'm not to the point yet where I absolutely have to make a hard and fast decision on that, but I'm also not that far away from it, right? Like, I'm going to be talking to them really soon. I'm going to want to have some kind of idea in mind or plan. It's definitely something you want to think about as early as possible, especially with how intentional and strategic I have to be with my resources. It makes it that much more important. And so that's kind of where I'm at right now with a lot of things. Like, I'm thinking of what's possible to get some of these things. How do I want to approach this? Because I know what big budget might look like. That's not necessarily where I'm at. And that's okay. Doesn't have to be. Like, you're talking about Netflix documentaries. It doesn't have to be a Netflix sized budget to make my documentary. And that's okay. So I just want to give it the best I can. And so I'm trying to be really intentional and smart with that and think this through instead of, not thinking it through and it being something that I end up looking back at later and going, oh, I wish I had tested that piece of equipment a little more or tried this way or researched this more or what have you. I'm really trying to keep myself focused and make the decisions as they come, but make the best decisions I can. So, those are the big things I've been dealing with the film right now. That and choosing and reaching out to those individuals that I would want to have as a part of this project that I feel like would um, be a really amazing addition to the project. And that's been really fun and interesting too, because like I mentioned, I've been reaching out to some experts and I've also been able to reach out to some fellow butterflies that I already had a relationship with. And I haven't completely filled those spots, but I'm really happy with the progress that I've made. And it's exciting. So I think especially the last like week or so, and a lot happened actually earlier today of the day I'm recording this, where I was getting really good progress with reaching out to people, getting a response back, having a conversation, scheduling conversations, and it feels good. It's really exciting. I think as I go through some of these final steps to get things ready for pre-production, production, it's just going to be really fun to see some of these details get more fine-tuned and come into clearer focus. And I think that'll be probably my biggest mission the rest of development and in a pre-production is just really clarifying, really focusing things and making sure I have that central mission in mind. I think the biggest aspect of during development, going through, thinking through who I feel like would be best and might contribute really nicely to this project has been keeping this focus and mission in mind, the central theme, the central idea, the goal of the documentary, because I have a whole lot of ideas when it comes to Turner syndrome content and storytelling. But I've got a particular mission and focus for this project. And so I've had to keep that in mind, not just with, oh, yeah, this is my theme I'm talking about, but also in how that affects who I would have in the film. And that's really different from my first film because in Like a Butterfly, I was very, very excited to tell as many different stories as I could. And so I didn't have a particular theme that ran through each woman's story. Each woman's story was very different. And that was the beauty of that film, was the wide variety of stories it shared. And I loved that. But again, this is where I have to stay focused because this project does have a very specific focus. I think I've talked about it. It's family planning. And so I have to keep that in mind as I'm making these decisions. And so that dictates who I'm going to want to interview. And it's an interesting shift. It actually has been a little bit easier and a little bit more helpful to have that. I think during the first film, I was also kind of just getting my bearings with that idea. I didn't really say no to people wanting to come on the podcast or my channel to share their Turner syndrome story. But, and because of that, I had gathered a lot of experience hearing a wide variety of stories and then being able to share a wide variety of stories. Well, now I've had a little bit more experience. I've worked within that idea more. I've gone through this process once before. I have a central focus in mind. And so it has felt a little bit simpler. I think having that central focus instead of just broad Turner syndrome really will make a big difference. And I'm excited. I'm excited to see how things shape up. So I wanted to give that update. I do feel like I am making good progress through development and I'm making really good contacts that I'm excited to talk to that I would be honored to have in this project. So that alone has me so, so stoked for this project and how it's going. And I have to say, as I've been getting ready, as I've been thinking this through, because it hasn't been just talking to people, but it's also been trying to structure the narrative, trying to decide how I tell this story. And because of that, what elements are important and all of that, I have to have some kind of idea for that in mind. And that has been really fun. Picturing how I'm going to tell that story. And really, it just has me really excited to start filming and then start editing and really create something really amazing. So, yes, I'm very, very excited for how it's going. That is where I'm at. I am almost at the end of development. I'm almost ready to start pre production. And it does make me excited because I do have some other very fun things that I can't announce yet, but that will be exciting to bring some community aspect into things. And I have been thinking about ways that you guys might be able to be somewhat involved. And that's exciting too. It's feeling really real. It feels like I'm getting, the legs underneath this project and the foundation, and it's exciting. So that is where that's at. That's how it's going. I know I don't have a ton of like specific details to announce yet, but I am hoping they're coming soon. I'm just trying to time it right for sharing things like the project name and some other details and maybe a timeline. I don't even know when I'll know a timeline. See, one thing I have been struggling with is the decision of how hard and fast of a timeline to set. I am doing this independently, right? This is just me. And so I get to decide what timeline I put myself on. Now, does that mean I want it to drag out? Of course not. You guys just heard me talking. I'm very excited to get this project out into the world, and I haven't even started filming for it yet. We've just been in development and having conversations. So I don't want to drag things out at all, but I also don't want to rush it. And I don't want to have to constantly change and update things if I put out a time frame and for whatever reason it doesn't end up happening. That's been a really difficult thing in my mind for me, and I'm so like indecisive in that way that I, I've been struggling. So possibly, possibly that'll be one of the things I'll be able to solidify a little more as we see how the rest of this goes. As I continue forward, I see how everything is going and how I'm able to kind of flesh out some of these details. And I know I should at least be able to get you guys the name and some other details soon. And hopefully we can get a time frame not too far out either. We'll see. Don't hold me to it because again, we aren't even finished with development, but it's going well. So that is a film update for you. And I promised a recommendation connected to Netflix documentaries, and I do have some. Both a docu-series and a feature documentary. Both very new on Netflix and definitely in the Netflix documentary trend theme. It feels very, very fitting. So, if you don't know, Blumhouse has been doing these docu-series for Netflix that are basically these like crazy real life stories with a particular thing in common. Like one of the ones they've done is Worst Roommate Ever, where it was all of these crazy roommate stories. Then they released Worst Neighbor Ever, I think a week or so ago. I would have to check the date again, but very recently. And wow, it was really good. It's 4 different stories, all based around crazy, real situations with neighbors. And often there's conflict and it turns into a thing and a situation and stuff happens. Some of them are just well, all of them are absolutely insane. But it's very true crimey feel, but not it's very, very good. I very much enjoyed it. The other one is called Shipwrecked, and that's the feature length, not by Blumhouse, that is about the running aground, the sinking of the Costa Concordia, where it ran aground and then sank. and real stories. They interview so many different people that were actually on there, both crew and passengers. And oh my gosh, it was done very, very well. They had real footage that was filmed during it for a decent amount of it. And yeah, it was really good. And also a crazy story. So I absolutely would recommend those to you guys. Both Worst Neighbor Ever and Shipwrecked. I I really enjoyed both of those projects, and for me, that's where the documentary goes right. And so all of that to say, that is my recommendation. That's why the trend also felt very fitting along with I am making a documentary. So, yeah, that's my recommendation for you guys for this week. And I hope you enjoyed this episode. I think it's always fun getting to chat movies and filmmaking, and I'm really excited to be able to give you guys an update on the film. Hopefully, I can share more soon. And I hope you enjoyed it. And as always, if you have not seen my first film, Like a Butterfly, it'll be linked in the description. I would love if you would check it out and let me know your thoughts. And I hope you enjoy it if you do watch it. And I'll see you guys next week. Bye! The Studio Sessions is a Butterfly Entertainment production. You can keep up with all of our podcasts, YouTube videos, films, and other projects on our Instagram page. We are at Butterfly Entertainment Group. Thanks for listening.